world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes. An elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad. Welcome back to the IP Squad and our ongoing investigation into the Alien and Predator franchises, and the franchise they made together. I'm John Campbell.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah. When one franchise loves another franchise very, very much, that you get AVP. I'm John Campbell. My partner for this investigation, of course, is Mike Ergani.
It's me. Yeah. Look, I'm just here to celebrate the love of two franchises. And look, their kids might not have been what you expected, but damn it, if they aren't encourageable.
Well, here we go. Yet again, I feel like, as is becoming very much the case, we'll see a lot on this show, but particularly this season, we've seen a lot of this. Yet another attempt to jumpstart something that Fox owns the rights to.
Jumpstart is an interesting phrase to use with this particular film. We're talking about 2018's The Predator.
The Predator. The hunt has evolved, Gergoni.
Because this is a film that I think jumpstart is the right term here, because we're taking this big jalopy that's been sitting on the side of the road, and we're just trying to get it to start, just like anything we can do. We're wanging on the starter with a tire iron. We got the jumper cables in there. We're pouring water into the radiator.
Well, I have I have a quote somewhere in here from co-writer and director Shane Black, who talked about the big note here was to eventize The Predator. Turn it into an event movie. And I think that right there might have been the beginning of problems. Was like, we want to take The Predator and make this a tentpole, like, summer blockbuster.
Yeah, there's your problem right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, every Predator movie that's been successful is not that.
Right. Well, because it's very interesting to see, and of course it'll be what next week's episode is. The next response is to do the exact opposite of that.
To resounding applause.
Yeah, like to just bring it way down and back to... Well, and I will say, this movie, and Gergoni, this is the first time you'd seen this. Is that correct? This is your first viewing?
Yep.
I saw this in the theater because as much of a Predator fan as I am, on my Mount Rushmore of screenwriters is one Shane Black. I mean, talk about if I was to write down the people who've influenced me the most as a creator, Shane Black would be very near the top of that. His mixture of comedy and action has always just delighted me. And
look, this movie is unabashedly Shane Black in certain moments.
That's the thing. Okay, I will say. And I'm so glad. That was what I was going to ask. This is the first time you see it. This is the second time, because I saw it in the theater with, no real knowledge of this. But since then, a lot has come out about how this movie was made. And so I'm 100% seeing. The 2-word description I would have of this movie is chop job. This thing was sliced to ribbons.
1-word description I would have of this film is Frankenstein.
Yep. There you go. This thing is so full. A ton of stuff got cut. You don't even probably need to know that to see it. And the entire third act was replaced.
I'll be curious to get some info as to what precisely was replaced. I mean, I can see, when I say Frankenstein, I just mean I can see the stitches.
Yeah.
I see where the corpse has been stuck to another piece of body. Yeah. And it's like pretty apparent in the third act that like the way they kill certain characters are clearly like reshot to try to have some impact completely devoid of context. Like, okay, these are just like quick, brutal deaths that are meant to like shock you, regardless of what else is happening.
I'll just say
the third act.
The reshoot. I mean, when I say the third act, I mean the entire last half hour. Everything from when they gear up and go out into the woods, totally different.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
All of it. Yeah. Edward. Okay, here's an interesting. Edward James Olmos was in this movie in its original cut.
What?
Yeah.
Huh? What?
Yeah.
Where?
He's gone entirely. They've cut all of it. In the original ending, they went to this army base, and he was the general there who geared them up and fought the predators with them. There's a
Sorry, I sneezed out of an allergic reaction to that information.
It's a totally different. Yeah, it was I mean, we're talking a page one rewrite of the last half hour of this movie.
Wait, hold on. Okay, they go to the army base at the. So do they even make it to the downed predator ship then?
I don't think. Well, hold on here. So, in the original ending, and this does sound cooler. And
everything sounds cooler in hindsight, but
but the idea was that they got to this army base that had predators with them, so they would have been fighting alongside opposing. There would have been predators on the human side. There was going to be a full-scale battle between the loonies, who are our central dirty dozen, which is the most Shane Black stuff in the movie, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the stuff I think that also is the most entertaining and works the best in this movie. And then there would have been good predators, and it would have been a full-scale battle sequence.
Between good predators and just a single super predator?
Yeah, what is he called? Is he called the souped-up predator? What's he referred to? They call him something. I don't think in the movie. I think he's referred to. Or maybe evolved predator, I think is what they called him. Anyway, I only know bits and pieces of what people have said, so I can't give you a full, obviously. Like a full rundown.
There's not like an alternate script hanging around there somewhere.
No, they test screened it and it tested poorly, but Shane Black said that was because the effects were wholly unfinished. And the studio freaked out because it tested poorly. And so they were like, you got to change the whole ending.
Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll go through the movie like, bit by bit, but like it's there's chunks of this movie that are like truncated.
Yeah, hugely so. I mean, there was apparently like a 2.5 hour cut of this movie, and the demand was get it down to under 2 hours. I don't care how. Under sub 2, it doesn't matter. Which is not a good idea. Like, that's a fine goal, but when it's just like, at all costs, this must be under 2 hours, is not a great thinking to make a movie, right? Because, so let's talk about this. This movie, yes, a lot of hype for this movie because it was Shane Black, who was in the first Predator and rewrote huge chunks of it while acting in the movie, obviously. So it was sort of seen as like, oh, wow, one of the original architects of the Predator franchise is returning. And Fox really, really pursued him to do this. This wasn't like, man, he'd always wanted to do more Predator. But coming off of the success of Iron Man 3, which he had written and directed, they really, really were like, oh, Shane Black's in the blockbuster business. And basically what he said was, he goes, they said they'd give me the same budget as Iron Man 3, and I couldn't turn that down.
I mean, for real, especially after coming off of, because let's see, what does he have in between Iron Man 3? We have a TV movie. We have The Nice Guys, which I know you and I both love,
but was a like financial, unfortunately, disappointment. Even though it's a fucking great movie, it's actually my favorite Shane Black movie. It's so good. Don't watch The Predator. Go watch The Nice Guys, everybody. Yeah, I think the TV movie was a pilot.
And Ryan Gosling having a great time.
Oh man, and I'm to quote the great Patrick H. Willems. Why aren't there 5 of them?
100%.
Yeah, no, it's a real bummer that America. All right, actually, to quote fellow IP Squad member Robin Jones, America failed that movie. Yeah, we failed the nice guys. But anyway, so this was definitely him going like, okay, yeah, let me. If they're gonna put that much money on the table, well, let me kick around what a Predator movie might look like. With his film school best friend and writing partner Fred Dekker, who I will say, Shane Black has been very diplomatic about this movie. Fred Dekker is like, they fucked us. They tore our movie apart. They wrecked our screenplay. I just love the idea that Shane Black's like, well, I'd like to keep working, so I'll just say like, hey, it didn't work, and I don't blame anyone for that. And Fred Dekker's like, fuck 20th Century Fox. They destroyed what we were trying to do.
We love a director being diplomatic and a writer being like,
I don't care if I ever work again. Fuck you. It seems to be his attitude. Come at me, Fox. I got nothing to lose. So that was sort of the. Now I will say, here's a really interesting what if you will. Benicio del Toro was originally cast as the lead of this movie. I mean, I will say a much stranger movie just by involving that man.
If Boyd Holbrook is replaced by Benicio del Toro.
Yeah. I will say,
such a different vibe.
Such a different vibe. Because I love Boyd Holbrook. He's great. And actually, I think I don't have a fault in this cast.
Yeah, I mean,
like I don't think anything
of them don't have a lot to go to work with. Like poor Olivia Munn is just like.
Well, apparently most of what got cut was her stuff because her character, and that makes sense because her character makes no sense and is so ill-defined.
She's super science lady. Like she's a scientist in the like Marvel comic books sense of what can she do? Science. What is science? Everything.
Well, I will say this time I really noticed it, and I didn't know there was a whole bunch of stuff that was cut from her at the beginning, and that really shows because the way she enters this movie is just out of nowhere.
She literally, like, guys in suits show up and say, we'll take your dog, you're coming with us.
Yeah, there was like a whole thing with her dog and like a whole scene of her jogging with the dog. All that got cut. Because even when they go like, and we'll take your dog, you're like, oh, I guess she had a dog. Like, I mean, I can't stress, if you haven't seen this movie, I can't stress enough. It really is, guys in suits roll up. We've never seen Olivia Munn in this movie. And they're just like, what's her name? Dr. Brackett. Dr. Brackett, you need to come with us. And we're like, who's Dr. What? Who? What?
Yeah.
I don't know who this is.
You like to stargaze.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a sci-fi nerd enough that like when weird government guys roll up to you and say, I hear you've liked to watch the stars. Like, it's alien stuff.
Yeah.
And
she gets this, like one of the few remnants clearly of whatever her character was before it got slashed to ribbons, is in there where she talks about being interested in animals and then subsequently alien animals and all types of, and you're like, okay, that's as much as we get for anything.
She has an interaction with a surprising Jake Busey suddenly in this movie for like 3 scenes.
By the way, did you catch his name?
No.
His name is Dr. Keyes, which is the same name as Gary Busey's character from Predator 2.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, she has an interaction with him in the one of the 3 scenes he's in where she's like, oh, I wrote a letter to the president when I was 6 saying, let me know if there are any aliens. Then I wrote a paper on genetics and now I'm here. As if that explains anything.
Yeah. Boy, you can.
And then later in the film, when she's suddenly extremely proficient with guns and explosives, and you're like, wait, hold on, how?
Because earlier, I like the scene.
It's a Shane Black movie.
But I like the scene where when the Predator breaks out of the lab and she's like shoots herself with the trank and like doesn't know how to do it because she's a scientist. And I'm like, yeah. But then all of a sudden, she's racking a machine gun. And at the end, when she's diving on the back of the super predator, and you're like, I'm sorry. What? When did this happen, lady?
Yeah, and again, all it takes is that one like throwaway line that you and I are always expecting, which is a character saying, "And I served special forces for 4 years," or whatever.
Except that wouldn't work in this movie because every other character already has that backstory.
Then, like, why not add her to the group? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is, why not make her then a military scientist or something like that, where at least you would be like, oh, she's got some level of firearms training. And I don't know, maybe that was in the, I'm sure, 20 minutes of cut stuff with her. I'm not saying we need a ton, but my God, anything, especially because every other character, at least the loonies at the center of this, as they're referred to, are... Mm-hmm. They pop a lot more because even if they're not super well defined, they have that Dirty Dozen thing if they all have something. So at least you get like, okay, there's this guy and this guy. Whereas she, and unfortunately because she's also the scientist character, poor, because I don't think Olivia Munn is bad in this. It's just she also has the burden of having to be like, okay, let me stop the movie and explain what's happening right now.
That is literally the story of Olivia Munn's career, unfortunately. Like, I think there are things she is good in. Like, I mean, I would say she's pretty good in the newsroom.
I would say that's the best, that's the best example of her actually getting the time to act in something.
Right. She had a decent stint on New Girl that was pretty good.
Oh, right, yeah. She looked, she visually was perfect for Psylocke.
Yeah.
And really wanted that role.
To do in that film.
I know, and it's so sad because when you read like she turned down other stuff and fought for that role and trained like crazy, and then you're like, yeah, she's like barely in it, and I think has almost no dialogue.
Yeah, and at least the same could be said for the woman who plays Storm, but at least she got a whole other movie after.
Yeah. That's it exactly. Yeah, and even it's even sad because at the end of Apocalypse, Psylocke walks off like she's gonna be in more movies and then isn't. It's a real bummer. It's a super I just think Olivia Munn, it just has had horrible luck. I don't know what's happened there.
She got pigeonholed really early on with the whole like nerd hostess kind of role, and that has sort of stuck with her of just like, oh, she was just on these things because she's hot and nerds are easy to please with boobs, was part of the problem.
I do think there was when she started acting, there seemed to be a rolling of the eyes like, oh God, what, she thinks she can act now?
Yeah, and again, I think she can, given the right material, and like any actor, like given enough time to and space to portray a character, she can act.
And she did Sorkin. That's hard.
Yeah, and again, in this movie, like almost everyone here, I think she's fine. She's just not given a lot to do, and what she is given doesn't make a ton of sense.
Well, actually,
like Yvonne Strahovski in this movie is like an intense presence, but she has nothing to do really other than deliver monologues about Boyd Holbrook.
I felt bad for her because, unfortunately, we love Yvonne Strahovski, obviously, and it's unfortunate that she plays the wife in this movie. Now, Black writes her to have a strength, but she doesn't do anything. She's a strong-willed character and doesn't take shit from like the government guys, but she never gets a moment of... There's one moment where she goes and grabs a rifle and they're like, no, don't get involved in the story, lady. Stop it. Stop.
Right. And obviously she had like Chuck to be great. She's great in The Handmaid's Tale. Mm-hmm. Like she's not lacking.
We love her, of course, from the Mass Effect games.
Yep, absolutely.
She's really awesome in the Tomorrow War.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, saw that. She was just on the Peacock show Teacup. She's doing just fine. And actually, I just see on the note for Olivia Munn, she's doing a new Apple show with John Hamm. So hopefully that gives her something good to do on there.
Okay. Yeah, no, like she's been doing voice work on a bunch of stuff.
She works. I saw The Gate. Nobody else saw The Gateway. I saw The Gateway, which is a little crime movie she did with Frank Grillo. But of course I saw it. And it was totally fine, yeah.
She's in a bunch of episodes of Hit Monkey, which I know you and I both love.
Hit Monkey's great. By the way, don't sleep on Hit Monkey, you guys. It's so good.
The fact that it got a second season is a miracle, and we can't overlook that fact.
Nope, I can't. And I got to say, if there's one thing that's like, oh yeah, that was born to be an animated series, Hit Monkey is that.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the best use of Hit Monkey. By the way,
Hit Monkey, upcoming character for Marvel Rivals, very exciting.
Oh, nice. As he should be.
Hit Monkey.
As he should be. Yeah, love Hit Monkey. All right. But this movie is, everyone who comes into this movie is like, I love that guy. I gotta say, maybe having the most fun here, Sterling K. Brown, who has a nothing part but is making a fucking meal out of it.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing the like ostensibly government bad guy in this film.
And talk about there's not a lot of meat on the bone, but he's bringing a lot to it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a guy who will show up in things, and he's one of those faces that you see and go, "Oh, that guy." We're never actually naming what he's been in, but you've seen him in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Black Panther would probably be maybe the thing people might know him. I mean, obviously, This Is Us he did forever, but
sure.
that was. But the audience that's probably listening to this saw him in Black Panther, I would guess.
And like I've known him for like voice work stuff. He was on one of my favorite shows, Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts.
He does a lot of voice work, yeah.
Yeah, I was just on a few episodes of Invincible.
Yeah. If anyone saw, did
Atlas.
You see? Ugh. Yeah, but hey man, gotta put food on the table.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you see American Fiction though?
I did not know.
I highly recommend that movie, and he in particular is fucking hilarious in that. Him and Jeffrey Wright in that movie, excellent, really, really good movie. And he's also got he's going to be in Voltron. He's going to be in the Voltron movie, folks.
American Fiction has Keith David. Now I have to see.
Oh, Gergun, you'll love American Fiction. It's so funny. I can't recommend that movie enough. It's really, really good. But anyway, so like I said, I mean, like, assembled a really good. I think. By the way, I almost just want to. Well, here's the thing. My takeaway the first time and this time is kind of what you said. This is a better Shane Black movie than it is a Predator movie, and it made me go like, can I just get the Shane Black Dirty Dozen movie and lose the Predator stuff? Because I think the times when there's no aliens and it's just the loonies goofing, I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, and like right off the bat, the first sequence we have with Boyd Holbrook's character, I don't know any of these character names.
McKenna?
It doesn't really matter.
McKenna is the main character. Quinn McKenna. Boy, that's an action hero name.
But we have him joking with his other sniper buddies about like, are you actually placing bets on whether or not these hostages are going to die? And yeah, I thought that was implied, Sarge. All right, okay, cool. Put me in for 20. It's like, all right, this is a Shane Black movie. Got it.
Shane. Well, and that's okay. So that's the crazy thing when I'm reading about the studio interference. They really vehemently pursued Shane Black. Then when they got the cut of the movie back, they were like, I'm sorry, this is full of way too much comedy banter. We wanted a scary Predator movie and a big action tentpole thing. And I'm going like, then why did you hire Shane Black? Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty well-known entity, and it sounds like he delivered them a Shane Black movie. And they were like, whoa, what the fuck is all this shit?
John, that assumes that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing when it comes to studio producers. The people who hired Shane Black knew what Shane Black was. The people who are sitting in the back of the room at the test screening are a completely different branch of people that have clipboards with numbers.
And I think those people with numbers also heard, well, this guy made an Iron Man movie, so that made a lot of money. We'll get one of those Iron Man type movies. Despite the fact they probably didn't see his Iron Man movie, because if you've seen Iron Man 3, you know how fucking Shane Black that is.
I mean, that movie might have like leaned into some of the issues people talk about when they talk about the sameness of the MCU in terms of like jokes. Like, but that's the Shane Black patter that comes with a Shane Black movie.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily indicative of an entire genre of film.
If anything, the Marvel universe bent Shane Black's direction, not the
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, between Shane Black and James Gunn with the first Guardian movies, like those two did, I'm not going to say damage, but they definitely maybe taught Marvel some of the wrong lessons about tone in terms of overall.
Those guys have similar sensibilities, right? They're sincere filmmakers, but they like to yuck it up. Their movies are serious, but with a lot of jokes.
Right. And I mean, that's why like seeing those two succeed and then making the leap to, well, Taika Waititi should do Thor makes so much sense in the world.
Right.
And obviously Ragnarok is really good. And then the misstep is taking a hand off the wheel and letting Taika just do whatever he wants with Love and Thunder.
Agree to disagree on that. I really enjoy Love and Thunder.
I know, but I've got issues with Love and Thunder.
It's very much a Taika movie.
It's very much a Taika movie.
And this was very much a Shane Black movie that they then tried to massage into something else. And that's where the problems, I think, really lie. I'm not saying that the Shane Black cut of this would have been genius, but it probably would have at least been more consistent. Because I do think,
maybe
on paper, he's kind of a bad choice for this. At least for, I think, what a lot of Predator fans are looking for.
But you say that,
yeah.
But the first Predator has his fingerprints all over it.
It does in the character work, right? In the character, and that's the thing was, I think I think maybe this is what I should say. He's kind of a bad choice to direct this because he's not a horror filmmaker by any stretch of the imagination. Also, but I also think once again I say this, of course, just loving the man too, so I don't want to bag on him. I don't think it's all his fault because also they wanted to turn the Fox. Their whole thought process on this was kind of wrong. I said the idea of turning this into a mega budget summer blockbuster just isn't really what Predator is.
At its core, Predator is a dirty action thriller, right? Like the most successful Predator films have been guy hunting / being hunted environment, insert new environment here.
Yeah.
And the group dynamic of Predators worked because we had these stripped down archetypes of characters and didn't really spend much time trying to flesh them out. It was all about surviving the scenario.
And it's still,
of the Predator world.
Even as big as Predators was, it still had this kind of nasty griminess to it. This movie is very pristine. Even though it's R-rated and there's a lot of gore in it, it's all just very cleanly shot, brightly lit, feels blockbustery, feels Marvel-y in that way. You know, I mean, I know Black did say it's going to be rated R or I'm not doing it, which respect it is.
Sure, yeah. There's guts all over the place in this.
But they also made him use a lot of CGI blood so they could erase it in countries that would have a problem with it. Because once again, they're thinking, and I know that pissed him off. You know, so it's a weird thing where in some ways I can see this is rated R, but it somehow still feels a little sanitized. And that's more in tone than it is in the actual stuff that's on screen.
It's the moments in which characters can turn and look at each other and go, this is fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
That is completely devoid. Not completely devoid, but it is very much not the case in a lot of the more successful Predator movies, whereas those characters have to just keep moving and accept the situation or else they are going to die.
When I said it's not a good sign when I'm enjoying the movie most when there's no Predators on screen.
Yeah.
Because I got to say, give me the Shane Black buddy comedy that is just Keegan-Michael Key and Tom Jane. I'm there. I'm fucking there.
Yeah.
They pop so hard in this thing.
My biggest problem with this movie, though, has nothing to do with wars between studios and directors and has everything to do with the portrayal of mental illness and
as superpower. That's one of my big
certain
issues.
Superpowers. Yeah.
That's
the autism as superpower trope in this movie is so upfront. It's not even it's hilariously bad, but it's also just bad.
That, I gotta say, is something that irks me in general. It's this problem I had with that doctor show that was on ABC, The Good Doctor, where it's like, he's a better doctor because he's autistic, and he sees things we never would. And it's just like, every episode was, wait, he's gonna come at it from an unconventional perspective because of his autism. You're like, oh my God. I mean, I'm all for positive representations of people on the autism spectrum, but yeah, when it verges into, and this movie though, it's so fucking egregious, and that is on Black, because I don't think that's studio meddling. That's in the script,
because that's something they say in the movie multiple times. What if autism is the next step in human evolution? And then the Predators basically confirm it for them.
Yeah, I mean, it goes from theory to proven correct by Predators.
What is the thing that the Predators wish to strip from human genetics? It's autism.
And you're like, why would they want that?
Well, it's the ability to, like, as- associate random factual logical bits and create like structure and systems out of like hyper detailed focus, right?
Right.
And like, okay, cool, but you know what else can do that? And no offense to folks on, because I'm getting wrapped up in this.
We have
The
no
autistic spectrum does
Yeah.
not make your brain a supercomputer, despite what movies, games, and TV tell
I mean,
us.
it is. That's the thing is like it's a huge problem in this movie, and I think because it's so bluntly stated, it's really evident. But this did not create that trope. This is a thing that's been a problem.
No.
In
We just mentioned Mass Effect. I mean, one of the most impactful like missions in Mass Effect 2 has to deal with like spoilers for those who haven't played Mass Effect 2, but in the Overlord DLC, you're dealing with like this computer AI system gone rogue. And then it turns out, no, not an AI system. It's actually some dude's autistic brother plugged into a computer system. And he's doing the whole I have no mouth, but I must scream thing because his brain can't handle it. And it is a problem that I'm not going to say we've moved past because I don't know what's around the corner where big budget sci-fi is concerned. But like we've definitely, there was an era of this in like the late teens, early 20s of filmmaking. I think that wasn't this also like kind of a plot point in the Power Rangers reboot that you and I liked? Like the Blue Ranger, like they stated that he was on the spectrum a little bit.
Yeah, God. Yes. But I don't remember. I don't remember it being this egregious. But they did distinctly remember. They did make Billy on the spectrum, but I don't think it was quite. It was probably a little superpowery. I haven't watched that in a while.
But it's been a while since I've rewatched that movie. I don't remember.
Yeah, but actually pretty good that movie. I agree.
But this movie makes it so like the MacGuffin of the film.
I mean,
is this
that the plot turns on it really is a problem here.
Yeah, and like I don't know.
And the idea that like the kid is deciphering shit and you're going like, I'm sorry, this one, 10-year-old kid, simply because he's on the spectrum, is able to do things an entire team of government super scientists like couldn't figure out.
They literally say that they gave like the MIT linguistics program $1 billion in 20 years to figure this language out, and this kid did it in an afternoon.
Yeah. And you're just like, and he's not, like he's presented as just an autistic kid, not like, he has alien DNA or something. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like the way the movie portrays is like, oh, if you'd put any autistic kid in there, he would have done this. You're like, that's insane.
Yeah. And again, it's called a spectrum for a reason. Yeah. Like how autism presents itself is different from person to person.
We've learned a ton about it too, of course, within the last 10 to 15 years, right? And there's a reason it's gone to the spectrum, and it's the reason we've gotten rid of things like high functioning. And it just becomes the spectrum. Yeah. And tons of people can be on low level spectrum, and not even really be perceived in the
which is
pop
why
culture sense.
when you have like idiots who are saying like, oh, why are there so many autistic people these days? It's like, because it was undiagnosed for most of human history.
There were always that many people. It's just now we can be like, oh yeah. Or like I said, it's like a thing where it's like, if you're at low level, you have some tendencies of that. It's not, this kid of course is a fucking cartoon character. No offense to Jacob Tremblay, who's a very good actor, who plays Rory McKenna.
Have I seen this kid in anything else?
He's
not even a kid anymore.
The big thing he broke from was Room with Brie Larson. He was the kid in that. That was huge. He
plays Damian Wayne in Harley Quinn.
He does a lot of voiceover because he also just did the voice of Flounder in the Little Mermaid movie. And he was
good for him. He'll be getting residuals off of that for the rest of his life.
Well, and how about he was Luca in Pixar's Luca?
Oh yeah,
that's excellent. Pretty good.
Good for him.
So I mean, he's around. He's in a lot of. I know him from. He's in most of the Mike Flanagan movies. I'm a huge Mike Flanagan guy. He's a good actor. And I don't. Once again, I don't think he's bad. He's doing what's been asked of him in this. It's just, it's not good. And it's the thing that makes me sad is Shane Black usually is really good at writing kid characters, whether that be in The Nice Guys or The Last Boy Scout or the original Lethal Weapon. He's usually good about, or Iron Man 3, employing a way to get kids in without being annoying movie kids. And that's not this kid's problem. It's just that he's such...
I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It's the turn in the second and third act when he's exposed to the loonies, in which he suddenly becomes this cursing little maniac for the back half of the film.
Yeah.
In which you're just like, and this is the kid that's like figured out how Predator stuff works.
Yeah. The thing where he says reverse psychology. Don't go fuck yourself, he says to Sterling K. Brown. You're just like, okay.
And then at a certain point in this film, once everyone starts getting their hands on Predator technology, and like Sterling K. Brown has a shoulder mounted cannon, and they have these like detonators that they have walking around, and like that one soldier guy who fucks up using the glaive, which was pretty funny, admittedly.
No, there's good bits. And once again, that's very Shane Black, like funny, gory bit.
Sure. But it suddenly becomes like, wait, hold on. Is this kid special if everyone else can use Predator tech too?
Yeah. But yeah, and then he starts. Then he kind of pushes Olivia Munn to the side because suddenly he's got all the info.
But he doesn't. Like, the kid never really, like, he's a MacGuffin for the Predators themselves, but he's not.
Well, but he's the one who goes like, where Sterling K. Brown's like, how do you use this cannon? Oh, well, actually, what it does is it tracks the things near you, and you're just like, okay.
No, it like he tells him what happens on that Halloween. When the helmet gets hit, the gun goes off. So if something's attacking the helmet.
Can we talk about that this movie just glosses over that he definitely murders a guy with a Predator cannon? And you're like, wow.
The helmet does it. Like, the kid has nothing to do with
it. No, but you would still think that might traumatize him a little bit.
Oh, this kid's not walking away with this without therapy. He basically saw his whole home life destroyed and was attacked by
but at the end of the movie, he's been recruited by government forces and now fights predators. We'll talk.
You and I were talking earlier today about like Fant Four Stick and how that is maybe the worst superhero movie ever made.
Yeah.
The end of this movie has such a Fant Four Stick ending.
Yeah, does it ever?
Like, I could not help but.
And let me tell you, Gergani, when we get there, I'll give you two versions that are even sillier that were shot.
Oh, good.
Well, one.
Let's start.
Okay.
Let's start running down the plot of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing, and I'll be calm. I love the idea of the loonies and specifically the idea of how McKenna joins them. The idea that, similar to the first movie, our main character, Quinn McKenna, who I think, once again, I think Boyd Holbrook's a very good actor. I think he's not asked to do much more in this than be hero guy, and he's a better actor than that. But he's a compelling lead, I think. And
he can be.
He was. People know him primarily. Once again, I think he's primarily known more for playing villains and stuff. He was the Corinthian on Sandman. He's the bad guy in Logan. He's the villain in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. He's fucking great in the most recent season of Justified. God damn, he's amazing in that. And apparently he's playing Johnny Cash in the Bob Dylan movie that's out right now. I haven't seen that yet. But anyway, very good actor. But I think he's really likable here, which is what you need for this character. But the idea that he's like, my entire unit got wiped out by a space alien, and they're like, okay, we're putting you with the guys that have been given psycho checks by the
the Section 8 guys.
Yeah, which I think that's a great setup for, like, once again, our Dirty Dozen is, as they dub themselves, the loonies. It's all the guys who have been bounced out of the army for being mentally unfit. That's a great setup for your protagonist in a Predator movie. I think, if anything, actually, one of the big things I would say this movie is maybe get rid of a lot of the side stuff and just make them the core of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if we lose all of the Project Stargazer, is it called? And that loses us like Sterling K. Brown, and
I think you could keep them, but I guess I mean more the really, we could get rid of the kid, couldn't we? And the home life.
Yeah, I mean, the only purpose it serves is giving us a place where what we think are the MacGuffins are going.
Right.
The original MacGuffins being at the beginning of this film, we have Boyd Holbrook. I'm never going to remember his character's name. McKenna. His team gets wiped out by a predator escape pod.
Yeah, because the movie actually, the very first scene of the movie is two predator ships firing on each other. One's being chased, and another one is shooting lasers at it. So immediately,
I think that's another problem this movie has, is giving us any interiority on predator stuff.
Well, because one of the big things, and I think Black took this on himself, was Fox was like, let's just reboot the whole thing and start again. And Black's like, no. I think I concede all canon together. And he's trying to make like everything set up work.
Yeah, and I guess he does, kind of.
Sort of. I mean, he acknowledges everything, and he keeps the idea that there are factions within the Predators. Because the whole idea is that this predator that arrives on Earth is actually here to save the Earth from other predators. Or to save humans, right?
I guess, but...
Well, that's what's surmised, at least, by Olivia Munn's character.
That's the problem, is we have so many characters debating about what these predators are doing when it should be obvious. They're hunting people. That is the whole premise of Predator.
Right.
Giving them any other motive, what this movie does, starts to cause problems.
Yeah.
Because... Yeah, this first predator that arrives, which is the one that like ejects in the escape pod and is the one that like kills Boyd Holbrook's whole squad. Boyd Holbrook loots his mask and his gauntlet and then mails it to his son from Mexico or something.
Yeah, that's just goofy, is what that is. And
well, the idea is like he mails it to a P.O. box, but then the P.O. box isn't being paid for, so then it gets shipped to his kid. Like, it's a whole Rube Goldberg machine of like, whoops, and the kid ends up with alien technology.
And then because it's Halloween, he wears it outside, which is where it goes off, and you're like, yeah okay.
If we lost all of that, this would be a far more contained film.
Yeah. Because I love the scene then, once again, where they put him on the bus with the loonies, and they're like... I just love the whole... Once again, that's what Black is so good at, when they're just like, what are you in for, man? What's wrong with you? And he's like...
I saw aliens.
Yeah, and they're like, oh! But then I love when they see the alien escape, the predator escape, and they're chasing it, and they all just go, space alien, got it. Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, all right.
That's great. That's so funny.
Because, we have Trevante Rhodes, we've got Keegan-Michael Key, we've got Thomas Jane.
Alfie Allen.
Yep.
And Augusto Aguilera, who I find all of them very good. And I think they have a nice chemistry. I wish the movie had more of them together, Because the moments where it's just them, and even the scene where they get Olivia Munn and she's unconscious and they've put all the, like, they put a cup of tea by, and, like, all that stuff just feels like Shane Black silliness where they're like, well, we want her to feel comfortable when she wakes up, so we, And then she wakes up
betting on whether or not she'd grab the gun or whether she'd shoot him.
Yeah. I told you she'd pull the trigger. And like them trying to stand nonchalantly when she wakes up and they're all like just being... It's really funny.
Yeah.
It's legitimately funny.
But then when we cut away to Jake Busey and Olivia Munn talking science stuff, it slows the movie down quite a bit.
It does, and none of it really matters. Although, once again, there's good Shane Black dialogue in here. The whole thing about, like, we call them the Predators, and she's like, that's not what a predator is. And he's just like, yeah, but it sounds cooler.
And Jake Busey can't say, but that's the name of the franchise.
I just love Sterling K. Brown, though, going like, Predator still sounds cooler, though.
Yeah.
And then later, she says it to somebody. I think she says it to Boyd Holbrook. He goes, that's not what a predator is. Like, that's what I've been saying. That all feels very Shane Black.
Yeah, but we have to slow the movie down. We get some cameos of items from previous Predator movies. We have the spear from AVP. We get a couple of masks from previous Predator films.
And I don't hate the idea of Project Stargazer, because we saw that. We've seen things like this hinted at, particularly in Predator 2 with Gary Busey. The idea that, like, like when these things come here, people are seizing upon them, and the government is interested in them on some level about like, oh, they have advanced weaponry and all that. Of course, this movie was also supposed to have a Schwarzenegger cameo in its original.
Is that what was supposed to be in the pod at the end of the movie?
No.
Really? The pod is person shaped.
Yeah, I'll get to what was supposed to be in the pod. I'm going to save that because you're going to love it. No, originally the ending would have had none of that. It would have just been after the battle, Schwarzenegger shows up to recruit them.
Ah, okay.
It would have, yeah, it wouldn't have been an actual, like, this was before any of that, because that's all added after the fact, obviously.
Sure.
The Schwarzenegger cameo was in Black's original script, and it was just like, you know, you've seen the same things I have. I think you should come work for me, you know.
Sure.
And Schwarzenegger turned down.
Fury.
Yeah, no, that was very much what it was supposed to be. Is like, actually, I'm putting a military team together to hunt these things, and you should join me. And that would have been cool. The reason it didn't happen is Schwarzenegger's like, the pot's not big enough. I should be a main character. They don't do cameos.
I wouldn't mind it if like they brought the loonies back to the loony bin and like, who's the guy who's also seen aliens? Well, it's Arnold.
Well, actually, what's interesting is what they do with Boyd Holbrook in this movie was kind of what the original pitch for Predator 2 was supposed to be, which is Arnold now being detained and treated as if he's insane.
Yeah.
And you're like, that would have
this aliens show back up.
That would have been more effective, right? If we had actually gone through the first movie with Dutch and then found him in an insane asylum in the second movie, and we would have been like,
I mean, that's Terminator 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's exactly what it is. And that would have been before Terminator 2. So if anything, no, I think that's just parallel thing. I'm not going to say, yeah, Cameron heard about this. He's like, good idea. No, well, that's why I like that here, where they're like, okay, crazy guy, you get on the bus with the other crazy guys.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And everyone has their issues. I mean, and once again, I think they're all written really well. The reveal that Nebraska tried to kill himself, I thought was a really good moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what Alfie Allen's whole deal is, other than he's a close-up magician.
Man, Army just can't have that. Yeah, I will say he's maybe the least developed of the bunch. He definitely is, actually. Lynch. I don't quite know what his deal is. He's British.
Augusto Aguilera's
Nettles. Yeah. He's very fun. I enjoyed him.
Yeah, but like, why is he with them?
I may have said. That's the other thing, too, is like, even if they did say it, it's all just like, this reason, you know?
Because Keegan-Michael Key and Thomas Jane, like, that's the most spelled out relationship we get. Yeah. In terms of like, Keegan-Michael Key's character Coyle had like some incident where in the fog of war he opened fire on a friendly vehicle,
right? And
it turned out that Thomas Jane's character Baxley was the only survivor of that vehicle,
right? And
they like trauma bonded over that.
Yeah, Baxley has Tourette's syndrome, so he says inappropriate stuff, and then Keegan-Michael Key's thing, which is actually he's got the same deal as Shane Black's character in the original movie, that he tells these horribly off-color jokes.
Yeah, and sometimes like kind of has a PTSD shutdown.
Yeah,
like it comes up once. That feels like a thing that got truncated in the movie. Like his shutdowns, and then like the only person who can kind of like talk him through it is Thomas Jane.
That's what I'm saying. Like they, to me, they're the most interesting and compelling characters in the movie because of their devotion to each other and their dynamic. They feel like characters out of a Shane Black movie.
Yeah, and the fact that they go out with the two of them being gutted by the Predator, and then like they know they're both going to die, so they both just shoot each other at the exact same time.
Yeah,
I had mixed feelings about that.
That was added after the fact, of course.
Yeah, of course.
All of I mean, once again, everything in that final battle is reshot.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's supposed to be giving this dramatic impact to.
I think it's supposed to be like a war movie, brothers. You know, no, I agree. It doesn't work.
But like Shane Black's whole thing is earnestness on top of the comedy, right? Like,
absolutely.
But you don't undercut the comedy with earnestness. But you don't undercut the earnestness with comedy. It's the blending of the two.
Because I mean, I think
so like
you
the
go
third
back
act where they're killing each other feels like, oh, now we have to get really earnest, really fast, to solidify the exclamation point on these two characters.
I think apparently like every death was radically different in his original version.
Yeah.
Well, again, the big note from the studio was like, you got to crank up that third act, man. It's too boring the way you have it written. And I'm sure it was better. I'm sure it was better. Or I'm sure it was probably more character focused. The note from the studio was it's too talky down the stretch, which once again, I mean, and I know your point is valid, but it is sort of just like, you hired a guy famous for his dialogue, so that's interesting. Too talky down the stretch and just not enough big action.
Yeah, and with a Marvel movie, it's easy because you have all the suits show up at the end of Iron Man 3, and that's fun. But that movie does end with Tony Stark basically cutting off a monologue, right?
Yeah. And it's him and Rhodey trading quips mid gunfight. You know, I mean, it's still shit. Now, the thing that worked obviously for Iron Man 3 was, and Black has talked about this, is like they basically had all those set pieces, like you got to get to here to here to here, right? Mm-hmm. And so he got to write the movie going here, whereas in this one he was creating the set pieces. But as we're talking about, like, I don't think, but by the end of this, I remember being particularly, and you can feel it, like really disappointed by the end of the movie in the theater. By the time Boyd Holbrook is riding around on top of a spaceship and stuff that's flying, you're like, well, what's going on here?
What's going on here is,
and it doesn't. Let's get back to So anyway,
briefly the plot of the film.
So
Predator shows up.
Yeah,
Predator is captured by Project Stargazer.
They bring in Olivia Munn's character, Dr. Brackett, because once again, due to like a couple lines of dialogue, she's somehow an expert on extraterrestrial alien or animal life.
She's specifically an expert on like animal hybridization.
That's right, because that's a big part of this movie.
Certain animal species that create new species basically by coming together, like certain species of like coyotes being a blend between wolves and foxes, or like mules, or like zorses and whatnot.
And get ready to hear the word hybrid 800 times.
Sure, because the thing here is when they're trying to figure out what makes this predator tick, they find out, what's this? It's got human DNA in it.
But that can't be.
That can't be, right? So Olivia Munn, figure it out.
Yeah, so they bring in Olivia Munn to their top secret government facility, which Jake Busey is there.
Yep, he's there, and he's like, yeah, this is all pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I love being in
Check it out, Ryan. That's his dad. But he's got a lot of his dad in him, but maybe, backed off on some of the worst qualities.
He has just enough to be a good actor. I'll say that much.
I love Jake Busey, great character actor, and I've seen him be. Yeah. He's by far the best part of Starship Troopers. He's easily the most compelling of those Central Troopers.
What did I just see him in?
He's in a lot of stuff, so it could have been anything.
He's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I just watched something with him in it. I'm trying to remember what. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So, so they bring her in, and once again, Sterling K. Brown is the head of Project Stargazer, and I don't know if this is in the script or it's him, but his bit is that he's always chewing Nicorette gum, which, as myself as an actor who loves a prop, I see you, Sterling K. Brown. Give me some business to do.
It's just something for him to rattle around in his hands and chew on.
Yeah.
Talking.
Just to be there to give his thing, but he's just like, yeah, man, these things have been done. But the big thing we learn is that there have been more Predator encounters in the last few years than there ever have been.
Yeah, and it okay, so this is where the plot of this movie really falls apart for me, because what we eventually figure out is that humans on like a galactic level are an endangered species, right? Because we're like only on this one world and we're killing it because of climate change.
Yep.
Cool. So the predators are trying to get here to hunt us and harvest what they need out of us,
right, before we're gone,
as quick as they can.
Yeah. And then also there's like there's a half tossed in thing about like also maybe they want to colonize the planet after we're gone. Maybe
because they love like a hothouse environment.
But that is so like also maybe that.
Yeah.
There's a little too... Everything in this movie would have been better simplified. The idea that they're just trying to get as much out of humanity as they can, that's fine. You don't need to also add in like, and an addendum and that maybe they want Earth, but I don't know.
So what we eventually figure out is, okay, that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
And then down the stretch of this film, when once we introduce the, and I will confirm it is called the Upgrade Predator.
The Upgrade Predator, there you go.
Yeah, also known as the Ultimate Predator or the Assassin Predator, according to Xenopedia.
You can call it whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But it's
a bigger
the first
predator.
Is referred to as the Fugitive Predator.
Yeah.
Is the one that...
Because that was the one that was on the ship that was being chased at the beginning.
Yep. It was attempting to deliver some kind of thing to help humanity.
Yes.
With survival, with fighting other predators, it's so... They go back and forth throughout the film in terms of what this fugitive predator is trying to give to us.
Yeah, all they say is it's like he's going to bring us something that can save us or whatever. But they're vague about like, or it can help us or protect us or something. Maybe it's protect us is what they say. But you're like, okay.
But that's all supposition from Project Stargazer's point of view.
Yeah.
And also does not line up with any of the super predator or the fugitive predator's actions throughout the film.
Well, because he wakes up on this table and murders everyone.
Yeah.
Right away.
And I will say, the one thing I do like about this movie in particular is that they assign way more intelligence to the predator. But it becomes a detriment because, again, we start getting into interiority of these predators and assigning motives beyond, and it hunts people. So suddenly you have to start thinking about the logical consequences of how it acts.
Right.
And then everything sort of falls apart because, like, okay, it wakes up on this table. I grant you, it's pissed.
Mm-hmm.
But if its goal is to deliver something to humanity to help them out, why wouldn't its first move try to communicate?
Maybe it would kill one soldier who came at him with a gun or something, but the idea that it just slaughters this room of scientists.
And some of them are running away, and it still kills them all.
Jake Busey didn't do anything to him. Yeah, the only reason it doesn't kill Olivia Munn is because to get in and out of the decontamination site, which I gotta say, at first I went, oh God, but then I went, you know what? Black doesn't shoot it like sexy.
Yeah.
I'm glad. There's no which is, I will say, this is rare for Olivia Munn in a movie. There's no real objectifying of her in this movie.
Yeah, no, not really.
And but it's and actually this I was like, oh, very clever because she had to take all of her clothes off to do that. It sees her cowering naked and doesn't kill her, which is very classic Predator. But you would think it would then try to communicate with her or something, right? Because it's
again, if this predator's motive is deliver a thing that will help humanity,
and I think the kernel of an idea of a predator that likes humanity could be something.
I don't like it.
Okay.
Because
I'm not pitching anything specific. I think that's an interesting idea, though.
Yeah, I guess. My whole take, and again, maybe this speaks to all of the comic books I read in the 90s, but the idea
I'm
that
sure Shane Black read them too, but
Sure, but I mean, even Predator 2 lends itself to this idea a little bit. The idea of a human earning the Predator's respect is one thing. The idea of a Predator coming to humans and being like, you humans are all right, that doesn't jive with me.
I don't know. I like the idea that like maybe one of them was like, I kind of like these people, man. Maybe leave them alone. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. It's a singular. They do also do the thing where they do talk about later in the movie when something I don't know that they need to do is give voice to the Predator because they have the computer that can translate. And that's just so it can go, there is one among you who is a true warrior. His name is McKenna.
And that just becomes a red herring of the fact that the true warrior is the kid with autism.
Yep. We like this, even though you would think they would think that's the weakest of them, right? I mean, conceivably, based on what the Predator we have seen up to this point value, that is interesting to me.
it really, and this is a fine line that every Predator movie has to dance around, right? Is like the intelligence levels of the Predator. It is a species that can travel through the stars, and yet it has this like hunter religion kind of like built in of just like, well, but it's also stabbing people to death and tearing out their spines.
Right.
But it's also an intergalactic species. Like, how do you justify those two things in terms of like technological advancement versus ethics, I guess, right? And Star Trek wrestles with these sorts of questions all the time. And with the Predator specifically, in this movie, it asks those questions so much more hard than any other Predator movie that it forces you to wrestle with it.
Well, yeah, because it's making it the center point of it, and that's why I'm saying I see what Black is trying to do, but it's both needlessly complicated and underdeveloped. And I think once again, I think perhaps, like I said, I'm biased towards Black, so I want to assume his version was so much better. It probably wasn't, but it definitely doesn't help that this thing got slashed to ribbons. I think the movie could have at least been more coherent, if not like really good.
And maybe that is on him a little bit of like, no, let me try to make all this make sense.
Yeah.
And so then you suddenly have to like ask a lot of those questions that I think it's wiser if you don't even get a chance to ask them.
Well, look at the success of the franchise now, way backing off on that stuff. I also think there's a big thing in that, whether that's something to explore. I don't think that's what people are paying their $12 to see or whatever, you know.
But I don't know. There's the whole like Predator v Predator thing that is introduced in Predators, right? It's the whole division of class between the Predators we traditionally knew and these like super Predators that are introduced in that film.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting concept of being caught in the middle of that conflict and like having to choose a side, quote unquote, and like somehow getting the better of both of them as they do in that film is sort of where I want to land. Whereas this one is like, no, the fugitive Predator was altruistic and was trying to save humanity.
Right.
I don't know.
It's no, and like we said, it's a thing that is a common problem in all of these, and particularly saw in the AVP movies. It's very hard to give these predators much more than very simple primal motivation, because what it does is it forces the human characters to be like, see, don't you see what he's trying to do, you know, because they're not really, they can't express themselves very well.
My favorite part of the first AVP is the sequence in which the main character becomes like the squire of the Predator, because like, okay, no dialogue is exchanged. We have very basic communication, and yet everything is conveyed through action. And I think it works very, very well. That movie has a lot of other problems.
Right.
But I think that particular interaction of like, okay, this is how humans can interact with predators. They either become subservient or they earn their respect in some fashion. And like, we don't need words to communicate that. When we introduce the translator in the third act of this movie, where the upgrade predator can be like, and I shall give you a 7-minute head start. Wah ha 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 ha.
No, I'm with you 100% on that. Like, it is very much. I think I remember even sitting in the theater, and as soon as that, I was like, "Oh no, don't do this. This is a bad idea. I don't like any of this."
But at the same time, when we finally have a predator in this movie who, hey, put your guns down. Like, because we have the fugitive predator confront the loonies earlier in the film, and like they all have guns on him. He's holding one of their own, but they've got the MacGuffin that he wants in the form of the tech in the gauntlet. And there's this moment of just like, okay, you put your guns down. Maybe we can.
He does a little thing with his finger, like down.
Yeah. Of course, that is presaged by the dumbest moment of the film when he takes a dismembered arm and forms it into a thumbs up and sticks it through a window into the front of the truck.
Yeah. And did you catch who that truck driver was, Gurgani?
No.
That was Buzz from Psych.
Oh, good.
Who I think is just up in Canada, living his best life. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, it's Buzz. Because he gets some line about like, oh, you kidders. Because he heard like clearly the sounds of murder behind him. He's like, they're fucking with me.
Yeah, he hears all of his friends in the back of the truck getting disemboweled. He's like, everything okay back there?
Those are clearly the sounds of horrific slaughter. But he's like, no, thumbs up. I guess it's all good. Never mind.
Sounds you might hear in the back of a butcher shop. And
dear God,
these practical jokers.
What scams? Am I right? That is pretty.
The Predator sticking a dismembered arm with a thumbs up through the window is the dumbest thing in this movie, right?
I think so. It's sad that I have to go like there might be dumber. But it's I don't know. The ending's pretty fucking dumb. But no, I agree. I think I will give it that. I think that's fair. That being said, I do remember leaving particularly leaving the theater going, "Oh Jesus, that ending! Good Lord!" So anyway, this all takes it to, and this was part of Black's pitch for the movie is, forget the jungle, forget the city. I want to bring the Predator to suburbia.
Sure. Didn't we do that in AVP 2?
Well, yeah, they were in kind of, yeah. But he wants classic, because keep in mind, and this movie will make so much more sense when I tell you that Fred Dekker and Shane Black also wrote The Monster Squad.
Well, wow. Yeah. Damn.
Yep. Yeah. Because you're like, oh my God. I mean, I remember sitting there and going oh my God, they've turned Predator into the Monster Squad. The middle section of this movie kind of turns Predator into the Monster Squad.
Wow. For those who haven't seen the Monster Squad, first off, go see the Monster
It's Squad. Fucking great. Watch it instead. It's so much more fun than this. The Monster Squad pitch is so easy, right? It's the Goonies with the Universal monsters. Right.
It's Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman. Wolfman's got nards.
Yeah. Gilman and the Mummy. It's all the Universal monsters, and then it's a group of kids that are battling them. And it's so
suburban Americana.
It's so much fun because it's the 80s. It's a movie for kids. That tone works. Go listen to our Meet the Monsters episode where I like it a lot more than Brendan does. No surprise there.
Supervillain Dracula, which is our favorite Dracula.
Oh, Duncan Regehr as Dracula that's one of my favorite Draculas. He's so good as Dracula in that movie. It's great. There's ancient spells being cast by Van Helsing. It's a crazy movie made by two nerds that are the same nerds who made this movie. And I'm sure they had I'm sure they had the most fun writing this movie and going, and then this, and then we get a Predator do this. And then clearly from listening to Fred Dekker talk, they just had all their dreams slashed in front of them. Because it's, once again, I think the biggest problem, and it's not the only problem as we're pointing out, the biggest problem is there does seem to be conflicting goals here from Black and the studio.
Yeah. This is a compromised film in which there are bits of Shane Black that shine out through this glossy, really smoothed over attempt at what if we could turn the Predator into a Marvel film.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. I mean, because let's see, what was the budget on this thing? Was $88 million. Now that's not quite to a Marvel level, but that's a lot for a Predator movie.
It's more than I would ever expect for a Predator movie. It implies a third act that takes place on a flying spaceship.
Oh, interesting. This was shot by Larry Fong, who was Zack Snyder's cinematographer. None of that is present in this movie, certainly. There's no Snyder, imagery.
Sure, but again, what you and I have oft said about Snyder is, say what you will about him, he is not an anonymous filmmaker.
Right.
And neither is Shane Black a lot of the time, but that more comes from the character work and the writing than the actual cinematography, I will say.
Shane Black is an amazing writer and a good director. But I wouldn't say he's never been a visual stylist. It's just not in his, he's not trying to be.
Yeah, I will say there are some slick shots in this movie, especially in the Fugitive Predator's escape from the lab. I think that whole sequence is shot really well.
I think that's the best piece of action in the movie, for sure.
Yeah. This movie also suffers from the classic monster movie problem of we've tried shooting it. It hasn't worked. What are we going to try now? Let's try shooting it some more.
I did like. Well, let's talk about the predator dogs that do make an appearance in this movie.
Yeah, they're fine.
I was gonna say I do actually like the moment where Boyd Holbrook kills one by jamming a grenade launcher down its throat and firing. That was cool.
Sure, I'm not. How do they lobotomize the second one?
They just get in real close under its armor and shoot it in the head. He like gets between the plates and the Nettles does of the armor with a handgun and shoots him.
Because there's this whole thing in the second and third act of the movie where one of these predator dogs is just following them around playing fetch, and it's such a needless waste to just set up the fact that it keeps bringing them explosives back right when they need them.
Shane Black also loves dogs. Kids and dogs are a big part of his movies, so I don't think it works, but I'm also not shocked.
Does that second predator dog die?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but they don't get...
Save him for a sequel, baby.
They don't give Olivia Munn or her predator dog any, and they lived happily ever after in this film.
No, that would be something.
Where do they end up at the end of the movie?
Because Olivia Munn's not in the government thing.
No.
It's just McKennan's son. No idea. I mean, this was planned to be part one of a trilogy. I assume she would have been part of that.
God.
That you also never get the whole movie. Yvonne Strahovski is so worried about her son, rightfully so.
Yeah.
You never get a reunion between them.
Oh man, you're right.
And that's like her whole thing in the movie. Is please save my son.
Other than delivering monologues about the capability. Yeah.
She does get the thing about he's an elite tier 1 Army Ranger, Green Beret, sniper with 13 kills. When she runs that down, I was like, is this a joke? Why would she know? I understand she's his wife, but I don't think you would just be able to run down his entire military dossier.
She has his service record memorized for legal purposes.
Yeah, it turns into the Alec Baldwin thing from Mission Impossible, right? Where he's a counterintelligence operative without equal.
I mean, she does stop short of saying he is destiny manifested.
He's the living manifestation of destiny. That was cut out, actually. She did say that too. But it is just why not? Because I like that scene right up until it becomes ridiculous that she keeps going. But I do like Nettles being the one. Because, I mean, once again, I like all the stuff with the loonies where they're when he's like, all right, let's go find this predator. And they're all, when they go to, because they after they escape, they go to his house. Boyd Holbrook's. And I do like the moment where he's like, let's go.
Well, the only reason they go to his house is because when the first predator is escaping the lab, they don't know why it's or where it's going until Olivia Munn's like, well, it's tracking some kind of technology, and Boyd Holbrook goes, fuck, I sent that to my kid.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so when they go there, though, I like where he's like, all right, we got to get my kid back and fight this predator. And I do like the old lady's like, oh no, man, no, we're not with you. I thought
we were just escaping. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're eating their food and stuff like that. But that's funny. But then it is Nettles who, and I like the line where he goes, you tell me something. Is your husband the man I think he is? And then she runs down the dossier. And I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, I like that beat. And I said, I like all their stuff. Yes, they're all unceremoniously killed because the two other loonies that die on the spaceship are also totally needless.
Well, because the last two that die are Nettles and Nebraska.
Nettles is the one who gets his legs cut off by the Predator shield starting.
And Nebraska just dives into its engine.
Yeah. He sacrifices himself to bring the ship down by leaping into the engine of the ship. Which, I guess that's what Fox was looking for. More over-the-top special. And like I said, the CG at the end isn't terrible, but it's not great. And I think a lot of that is just they slapped it together. They needed a new ending.
There's spotty CG all over this movie. The Predators themselves look pretty good. There's a couple of moments when their eyes glow that look spotty. I don't think anything with the dogs looks particularly great.
I think both main Predators look really good for the most part because they're mostly practical and they're really well done.
There's a couple of bits where the upgrade predator like bites somebody. Like there's one bit where he bites somebody's head off that doesn't look very good.
Well, and some of that was because once again they insisted that the gore be CGI so that they could erase it in countries that would give it a lower rating. Which is just...
Or like the bit where all the gore is like dripping down onto the predator at the opening of the film doesn't look particularly great.
I mean, CGI blood is a real pet peeve of mine anyway, because it never looks right.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's always just...
We need red goo.
Man.
All the goo artists are being driven out of Hollywood.
And I don't want... Yeah, the stock price of Caro syrup has been going down. It's just a sad day for all. We speak as people who used to spend a lot of time mixing up fake blood, so...
Look, there's a trick to it, because, like, look, in real life it might look pretty pink, but on camera it looked way redder than you're expecting.
Yeah, it did. Well, remember the thing we learned was you needed mostly red food coloring, but a little bit of blue to give it that sort of crimson. And it was Caro syrup, and then you needed powdered coffee creamer to give it a little more viscous. We had that down, man.
There was a recipe.
We did. We had a recipe, and we had that down by the end of that. We had damn good blood in our high school films, and we were not afraid to put it on camera.
As much as our teachers would tell us, please don't.
I think the best was when one of the movies we made finished, and the instructor just went, "That was not okay." Whatever, old man. You don't get it, okay? We're the new school, okay?
Look, this is also the same film class that basically taught itself based on the DVD extras for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, watch what Peter Jackson did, and just do that. I just remember being like, well, I don't have 100-person crew, though. So
I don't personally know everyone at Weta Workshop, unfortunately.
That's going to be tough, man. I don't think I can do it. So anyway, yeah, all of this culminates ultimately in this, I guess we'll call it a battle sequence. It's all pretty lame, because the fugitive predator gets killed off very quickly.
His head gets pounded in by the upgrade predator as soon as he shows up.
Yeah. And I remember being like, I remember seeing it the first time being like, oh, because they were sort of setting him to be like a good predator. Well, he's dead now? Like, I thought this movie was gonna, and I guess at some point it did, end in Predator v. Predator battle.
And again, if there was this whole faction of predators that was like pro-humans and like, I don't know, conservationist predators.
I gotta look at that, and let me find the thing that actually describes that. Because once again, you can't see it, but you can...
Okay, I'm going to back up on an opinion before.
Yeah.
Maybe there is something about, like, pro-human predators, but it's coming at the angle of, like, well, we need to preserve this species so we can keep hunting it.
It's crazy to me that, like I said,
they're anti-poaching predators. I'm down for that.
There you go. It's so insane to me, though, that, once again, that Edward James Olmos is gone entirely.
And he, like, filmed scenes.
Yeah.
They were excised from the film.
Yeah. As a result, Edward James almost had all of his scenes cut out.
Hey, I just hope he got paid.
I'm sure he did, yeah. Because he was apparently a major part of the third act, and then once they changed that, they also retroactively cut out everything that he was in the movie earlier as well, because it doesn't make sense, because it wasn't setting him up.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Because once again, they demanded,
so, like, all of that stuff was filmed.
Yes. And test screened.
Like with the extra predators and everything?
Yeah. But once again, unfinished effects, so it tested poorly. And Fox took it. The people didn't like the ending, but Black tried to argue, no, it's getting poor reaction because the effects aren't done yet. And they were like, no. Scrap it all. Shoot the whole thing all over again. This movie also, here's an interesting fact. This movie had 4 separate release dates that it just kept skipping over as they continued to tinker, which is never a good thing.
No. Let's see. The one on the poster is 9/14.
That's when it ultimately came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I will say, that poster, not bad.
Pretty good poster.
The predator holding the predator helmet with the spine.
Pretty good. Yeah. Okay, here we go. The original cut of the film had a completely different third act, which took place during the day. That was another thing. They said set it at night because it's more badass. This was another Fox. No, I mean, whatever. Yeah. It included the loonies in the army joining up with newly arrived predators and then fighting with them against Upgrade and other predator hybrids, which he brought with him in his spaceship. And originally the reason why Fugitive Predator was running from Upgrade is because he was trying to prevent him from stealing those hybrids back. So that was also part of it, was there was a battle for control over these hybrids. Was running the early leak behind the scenes still show loonies and Predator dressed in army camouflage gear and driving an armored personnel carrier, where from the original ending, which also included Rory helping the loonies and others by flying. So the kid was flying the ship at a certain point?
Yeah, boy.
I don't know if I like that. Yeah. But apparently there would have been a bunch of different bunch of different kind of hybrid predators in a big battle. That's interesting because that feels more like what I would think the studio would want.
Because that gives you more options for toys.
100%. I don't know that this movie. There might be like an Upgrade Predator toy, but I'm sure. I don't think this they pretty quickly swept this thing under the rug over at Fox.
Yeah, I mean, what's the turnaround time between this is 2018. When does Prey come out? 2021?
Yeah, that sounds right. But pretty quickly they were like, no sequels.
Prey is 2022.
Okay, so 4 years, yeah. But like I said, when this was coming out, they go like, hey man, this is just chapter 1 in a new Predator trilogy. We're hoping Shane comes back to do all of them. Then they were like, what Predator movie are you talking about? What now? What happened? I don't remember anything about that.
I'm sorry, it's 2020 and Hollywood is burning down as the pandemic is spreading. So we're not doing anything.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, who's Shane Black? I don't know. They didn't take his calls anymore. No, based on the experience he describes on this thing, I don't think he was begging to come back. I think he's happy.
It sounds like he wasn't begging to be there to begin with.
No, it's really interesting. Like I said, he's very diplomatic because dude's a pro. But just there's got to be some part of this like, you guys begged me to make this, and then now you're all up my ass about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want a Shane Black movie. Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Oh, fuck.
And ask Shane Black to make a Shane Black movie.
Yeah, he's doing. He's finally making his first movie after this. He just finished shooting, which I'm excited about. Because he's adapting the Parker novels. Are you familiar with these?
Only because my dad has mentioned them, and you've probably.
Yeah, these are like seminal works of crime pulp fiction, and you're just like, yeah. That's what Shane Black should be doing. Yeah. He's over at Amazon doing that. So there you go.
With Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg is Parker. He's from Boston now. But you know what?
Yeah.
Look who's in it. Keegan-Michael Key and Tom Jane, baby. Black is loyal, you know? He's like, you guys, come on. You know, because they popped in this thing, as we said. Actually, this is a great cast. If you look at the whole cast of that, looks amazing. I'm very excited about it. It's got Shalhoub.
Dermot Mulrooney. I haven't seen him in a while.
No, you've just seen Dylan McDermott. But she's got Shalhoub in it, and you can't go wrong with Shalhoub. No, I'm very excited for that because I'm a huge fan of those novels.
Is that going to be like a series of movies?
Yeah, I think the idea
Assuming the first one does well.
That's the idea. Is Amazon is looking at that as a franchise.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. It's it was supposed to be RDJ, which is kind of a bummer. I would have liked to see RDJ as Parker. But
what diametrically different casting? It's like Robert Downey Jr. What's our next choice?
Mark Wahlberg.
Wahlberg.
Well, I think it kind of speaks to, and excuse me if this is not why you tuned in, but Parker in the books is very purposely ill-defined, like because he's a master criminal who sort of moves in different worlds. So the idea being, you could almost cast anyone and argue they're Parker. Because that's the whole idea, is that he sort of can. I mean, the second book is called The Man with the Getaway Face.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the sort of idea you could actually, I mean, and would be kind of a cool thing, though. It would be no studio would back this. You could make a franchise where every movie a different guy plays Parker, and it would actually be kind of true to the books.
Yeah. No studio would ever back that.
Nope. They're like, I'm sorry, what? No. No, that's fine. I'm not saying that you should do that, but I'm saying you could do that. It's an interesting idea.
Didn't they kind of do that with Tom Clancy novels in the 90s?
It just kind of happened. All right, let me get. So anyway, we get this whole battle sequence is pretty lame at the end, and everybody dies. All the loonies die. I did think that. I'm like, did they
The
all?
dog delivers a convenient explosion.
Yeah, as we talk about an insane. I laugh. I think I laughed out loud in the theater when Olivia Munn jumped on the upgrade Predator's back, and once again, not her fault.
Yeah,
Olivia Munn could totally be an action.
What was her plan there?
I don't know. But it's just because it's going to get the kill shot on Boyd Holbrook until she does that.
I guess.
Yeah. Doesn't Tom
She lights it on fire? No, she doesn't do that.
No, that's Tom Jane.
Yeah.
Because Tom Jane does a sacrifice move where he runs at it with like an incendiary grenade and just hugs it with the thing. Because that's what blows him back to get impaled on that tree.
Right. And then while it's flailing around, it slices Keegan-Michael Key's belly open and he dies.
Well, they shoot, we talk about, they shoot each other.
Yeah.
Which, I'm like, I agree with you. Like, I understand what he's trying to do with that moment, but it really feels unearned and weird. Mm-hmm. It's a weird moment.
They end up on the upgrade spaceship. That's when the laser field cuts off.
When we say on, we mean on top of it, not in it.
They jump onto the top of the spaceship.
Yeah, Boyd Holbrook and the two Nebraska and Nettles, who are the two living loonies at that point, which then when it activates the shield, a very dodgy CG effect of Nettles' legs getting cut off and his body going, ah!
Yeah. But it all ends with Boyd Holbrook inside the shield, but the shield being like conveniently Boyd Holbrook spaced away from the surface.
That I did think was very funny, is that there's just enough room for him to lie on his back just below the shield so he's on the surface of the ship.
But then it slightly rises when he needs to crouch. It changes distance from the hull of the ship based on how much of a Boyd Holbrook is there.
I guess that's the that's the idea. And so he's able to attack the Predator, or he's able to crash the Predator. That's when Olivia Munn jumps on its back, is after the ship crashes.
Yeah. But then they also have the Predator dog show back up to deliver a convenient grenade that Boyd Holbrook can then use to shoot into the upgrade Predator, exploding it.
But he gets one moment where it's dying, and he said, and I was like, this didn't land as badass as they wanted it to, where he's like, what are you? And the thing starts to answer, and then he just shoots it 3 times, and it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It was like,
that felt like they shot something, decided it didn't work, and then just cut it off in editing.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like they shot a whole movie, and then they decided to change the ending entirely. And then they're like, I don't know, man, that's the best I can do when the movie has to come out tomorrow.
Yeah, then hard cut to the end of Fant 4-Stick.
Oh my
where they're
God.
walking through a base.
I mean, really, it is like, what is this?
Boyd Holbrook is clean-shaven now and dressed in his military finery.
Yeah, dress uniform with the beret and stuff. And they're like, congratulations, Captain McKenna, I mean... Whatever. Like, I love that we don't even know who these characters. Oh, sorry. Just on one brief moment, the way they kill Sterling K. Brown is so stupid.
His head explodes.
Yeah, but shot by the cannon on his own arm.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
No idea.
Yeah. Once again, I remember seeing this for the first time, just going, what? Oh, okay. They're just like, I guess he has to die now. Anyway, what I love, though, is...
He can't be in the rest of the movie. We didn't film anything.
Yeah, they bring him into this guy we don't know, whatever this government official we don't know, brings him to a room of scientists we don't know. That is crazy that Olivia... Was she just not available for this reshoot day or something? Because why is she not one of the scientists in this big lab that they enter? And so, yeah, and I love they bring him in, and the kid's already working there. He doesn't come in with the kid. The kid's already on a computer.
No, the science guy he's talking to as he's being introduced to this new facility is like, well, thank you so much for letting your son live here and work here.
That's right.
He's going to put me out of the job.
That's right. That pesky kid. I tell you what, he's such a super genius. No one could be happy about how this turned out. But I will say,
we find out that like the thing, whatever it was that the fugitive predator brought for humanity, survived when his ship exploded.
Yeah,
and we're studying it here now.
Yes.
And his kid's there, and he's like, I've translated some of the things in the Predator ship, and it says they're delivering something called the Predator Killer. Wowzers.
They call it the Predator Killer. And then this scientist goes over and touches this thing, and a suit of Predator armor with crazy guns on it goes on, and once again, some real dodgy CG on this thing.
It's Iron Man Predator is what this is.
It's absolutely that. They're like, Shane, you know about Iron Man, right? Why don't you just do that in this? It's War Machine Predator completely, because it's got the cannons and stuff. But it's so dumb. And they're like, and this guy's like, I don't know why this thing is coming on me. I'm just a scientist. And they're like, what are we looking at? And then last line of the movie, Boyd Holbrook goes, you're looking at my new suit.
Does it come in a 42 long?
Does it come in a 42 long? Cut to black, directed by Shane Black. Oh, man, he could not have been happy about that. Let me tell you, though. Okay, this could have been much stupider. Could have been much stupider.
Already, I'm thinking, okay, so the whole time the fugitive predator was trying to give to humanity a suit of Iron Man armor to fight other predators. That was his goal the whole time? What?
Yeah. Oh, no. Gorgoni, you're not ready for how dumb this is. Right. And they shot this. Keep this in mind. They shot this.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Pod comes out. Weyland Yutani logo on it.
Okay.
Opens up. Inside. Ellen Ripley.
Okay, that doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense.
It was going to be a cryo-frozen Ellen Ripley.
From the future.
Yeah. Sent
again,
back in time to stop the predators.
Okay.
I love that in the description here they go, the rejected ending would have required some explanations. Ellen Ripley lived in 2179 while this film is supposed to be set in 2018. Yep. I guess they were like, we'll figure that out in a sequel. But I swear to God, they shot that ending.
Like Sigourney Weaver was there?
No, it was a stunt woman that they made to look like her.
Okay.
Yeah. No. But I guess the idea... Yeah, I
said
guess
it was dumb.
But I guess the idea was maybe it would have been Sigourney Weaver in the sequel. Because it would have just been one shot here. I mean, they, once again, the thinking was always, how do we put these things together?
Okay. So... that implies that the logic would have been that the fugitive predator had access to some form of time travel, or that came in contact with some form of time travel.
Yeah.
And that the thing they got from the future to save humanity from ... was Ellen Ripley, space trucker / alien survivor.
Yeah.
Or would the implication be that this is the clone of Ripley from Alien Resurrection who has traveled back in time?
Oh, I don't think they thought about it at all. At all, sir.
Say what you will about the Alien and Predator franchises and the franchise they became.
Yeah.
At no point did they introduce the absolute buck wild mind logic you have to start thinking about when you introduce time travel into a science fiction.
But it feels it feels very right to me that they were about to. Like, it's surprising that they didn't. You know,
the science guy that introduces Boyd Holbrook to whatever facility they're in at the last scene of this movie.
They don't give the name of an organization. The science is so nondescript.
But he introduces himself. I'm trying to find the character name. But he does introduce himself. And I expected him to say, oh, I'm such and such Yutani.
Oh, yeah. They could have done something as simple as that.
I would have been like, all right, okay.
They could have done something as simple as that. Or, like I said, the original Shane Black idea just being, we don't even see a facility, we just see Dutch. That makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
That would have been a simple, small thing. Let's see. I don't know.
Dr. Yamada is... Peter Shinkoda.
Oh, there you go.
Is in the last scene of this film.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as I'm going to deliver some exposition in the last 6 minutes of this movie.
I don't know, man. But yeah.
But even
time travel.
The idea that you bring Ripley into this is just like,
hey, why not, man?
We've talked about it before. The idea of a Predator movie set in the future, I actually think rules, and I do want to see that.
Yeah. If anything, I would rather have time travel go that direction. I mean, don't do time travel, but if you wanted to send Boyd Holbrook to the future, that's
unfreeze Arnold Schwarzenegger in the year 2150.
Oh no! What happened?
Because then it's like Demolition Man meets Predator. I'm there for it.
I do have. I got it at a convention years ago. Somebody did a 80s style action movie painting that was Alien versus Predator, and it was Arnold and Sigourney Weaver back to back with machine guns. And I'm like, God, I wish. I remember talking to the guy when I bought that. I go, that movie's my dream. He's like, that's mine too. That's why I drew it. I'm like, yeah.
I saw it in a dream, and I must will it until.
No, I mean that would be really cool. Like that's what you want. You know, it's like you want not only the Alien and Predator meet, but you want the individual heroes of each franchise to team up against them. And I think you just nailed. That's how you do it. You just freeze Dutch and have him thought out in the future. That's way simpler than sending her back in time. This isn't Terminator. We must not just start jamming every science fiction thing into one franchise.
I mean, I have read Alien versus Predator versus Terminator. And
oh yeah, I have too, yeah.
It does. The main character of that book is the clone of Ripley from Alien Resurrection.
Yes.
So not off the table.
No, but I always have a little bit more leeway for comic books.
And then what if Skynet gets their hands on Dutch, who's been sent to the future, and that's who they model the T-100
Oh
on?
my God. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like all this crossover stuff will eventually lead to that, where it's like, oh, every franchise is one franchise eventually.
And they all just pull back from a snow globe, and the doctors ask, what do you think he sees in there?
No, eventually it all just becomes that Patton Oswalt bit from Parks and Rec.
Yeah. The gloved fist of Boba Fett emerges from the sand.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah. Okay. Gorgoni, this thing on. I mean, this is becoming very common on this show. This movie didn't bomb. It $88 million budget. It pulled in $160 million worldwide. That's not awful.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where if a movie doesn't make $1 billion, it's considered a failure, regardless of its pulp cult roots. Right.
It's sort of just like, I mean, it is always the thing that keeps running with these franchises, right? That we keep bringing up is, what are you expecting? Like, what would you want this thing to make? Because like I said, I mean, the idea like the thing about they want to eventize Predator. You're like, well, maybe this isn't an event movie. Maybe this isn't a franchise that can do that. Not everything can be Marvel.
But the event of a movie like a Predator or an Alien has to be more like a slasher movie event. Right. It's a spooky, grim, like bloody affair, and we'll go and we'll have a good time, and we'll have some jumps, and we'll have some screams, and we'll have some oohs.
A perfect example of this was the most recent Halloween trilogy. Those were very successful because they were expecting to make Halloween money, and that blew them away. Universal was thrilled with how those played. Mm-hmm. But because they were going like, for a Halloween movie, these are gigantic. So that's
that's all you need out of a dirty little horror movie like that.
You dirty little horror movie, you. Well,
you know how I feel about horror movies, John. They're dirty.
Well, they shouldn't. I mean, the mistake is spending $88 million on it, right? Like that's the thing about like it's not. I mean, we'll talk about next week what they do. I don't know what that movie cost, but I have to consider a hell of a lot. You know what's very interesting, actually? The 2018 Halloween is a few rungs above this on the box office calendar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they actually came out the same year. Okay, so Gorgoni, I have the top 200 worldwide grosses of 2018. Where do you think the Predator slotted? Once again, it made $160.5 million.
160.5.
Now, only I will say though, just on a note, and I'm sure would upset them, 51 of that is U.S. Real disaster in the U.S.
That's a disaster in the U.S.
Yeah.
Those are some Warcraft numbers right there.
Yeah.
Our number one film of 2018 is, of course, an Avengers film.
Avengers: Infinity War.
Yeah, of course. Give me what's the fifth highest grossing film of this?
Aquaman.
Okay.
So people forget this. 1.1 billion. Aquaman.
Yeah, that movie did gangbusters.
Huge.
Mary Poppins was the Kraken. I was there for it. This movie, I'm gonna say, came in at a solid 32nd.
Oh, they wish. 51. 51st.
51. Ooh, didn't even crack the top 50.
Just beat out just slightly by Insidious: The Last Key.
Oh no. An Insidious sequel.
Yep. This movie got beat by The Nutcracker and the Four Realms.
I forgot that movie existed.
Remember when Disney tried to turn The Nutcracker into a franchise? Yeah.
They were like, hey, we made so much money off of Alice in Wonderland. What is another girl travels to mystical realm thing that we can use, preferably in public domain?
And yet that was 49th. And that movie doesn't exist. No, yeah. I mean, it's real telling what was going on and what would hurt this movie, but also what they're chasing, right? Which is your top five are Avengers: Infinity War, Black Panther, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, Incredibles 2, and Aquaman. All five of those made over $1 billion.
This was even like dumped in September when there's like nothing coming out.
Yeah. Oh, if you the box office of this movie was a disaster. It opened number one at 24 million and then dropped off to fourth place, then eighth place. Like it just because I think word was this thing stinks.
I mean, yeah.
I guess it played okay internationally, but you know, because it made another 109 international. But Jesus,
I want to see what it opened up against.
Oh, I think I had that actually a second ago, but I've lost it since.
It's 2018.
Yeah.
So September 14th, 2018, we have The House with the Clock in Its Walls.
Oh, geez, there's another franchise non-starter.
We have a Simple Fate. Let's see. It was absolutely had its lunch money taken by The Nun and Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
Man, it just got trounced by those films.
Yeah.
Like the distance between, so let's see, The Nun ends up with 109.
Yeah.
The Crazy Rich Asians with 71, and then drops off to third with The Predator with 47. Oof.
Yeah. Because they opened at 24 million. Then 8, then 3. Its first 3 weeks.
Oh, boy.
I mean, this thing tanked like nobody's business. And reviews were not kind.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a couple of positive reviews that are like, hey man, at least it's more fun than some of these things have been. That seems to be the faintest praise. I will say, quoting Emma Stefanski, who, if you're a blankie like we are, blank check listeners, you'd know Emma from the show, who called the film's depiction of autism maybe the worst thing I've seen in a film this year.
I'm not disagreeing with her.
Yeah. No, it's that classic thing where its heart is in the right place, but it's overcorrecting. You see this a lot where it's like, we want to celebrate, that like we want to show representation for disabled people or mental illness or all this stuff, but then you're like, yeah, but now you're turning them into superhuman. I mean, the way they talk about this kid is like he's an X-Men character.
Yeah. Turning a thing that people struggle with into, well, it's a superpower, you should be proud of this. Is a little
that's the thing. It's like, even though it's like, but we're being positive, it's like, yeah, but you're being like positive to an extreme that it loops back around to being offensive.
Yeah.
We see it a lot in stuff too, where it's like, oh no, people in wheelchairs are actually better. And you're like, okay, well you don't have to go that far. My God. No, they are, man. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me give you some highs and lows before we get out of here.
I was gonna say, speaking of reviews, what do the masses say about The Predator?
Well, I gotta say, I'm gonna start with a low. Jesus, we aren't crazy about this movie. Maybe a little hyperbolic here from AJ 200201, who titles his review "Worst Film I Have Ever Seen in My Life."
Okay, you need to watch more movies. Yeah. Again, that's what it comes down to with a lot of these hyperbolic film reviews. Is just like, well, then you don't watch a lot of movies, and that's okay. You don't have to watch a lot of movies, but there are films that you and I have seen that like barely function as films.
Oh man, see so many other podcasts I've done. Go listen to so many episodes of Meet the Monsters, where we are literally having a debate on some of them about, is this a movie? Can we even call this a film?
And like, we can pick at aspects of The Predator, but like, I followed the plot. The characters were at least vaguely likable.
Yeah.
And like, I laughed at some of the jokes.
This is not like a painful watch. It's
an hour 47 minutes. I watched this movie, let's see, 6 hours ago is when I started this film, and then watched the whole thing and then talked about it with you. Yeah. I'm not going to remember it after today, probably. No. But it's not like I want that hour 47 minutes of my life.
We were talking about it. I texted you last night. I said, like, it's not a terrible movie. It's just frustrating. It's a frustrating, like, there's good stuff. You can see the good movie that could be made out of these pieces.
That being said, continue with the hyperbole.
Well, I will say the hyperbole is there. All the criticisms in this, I agree with for the most part. It's just, my God, the reaction. Okay, thank you. Shane Black has single-handedly destroyed a franchise. I am not joking. Right. This was the worst film I have ever witnessed in a cinema. I am completely heartbroken and distraught. Spending $80 million on this garbage? Where do I start? The lead female scientist becomes a super soldier and manages to keep pace with the Predator, and even manages to run thousands of miles in the jungle in 10 minutes to save the day when the spaceship crash lands. Predator comes to Earth to kidnap an autistic kid. An autistic kid can read alien language? WTF! The good Predator comes to give mankind a gift and to help them, but instead kills anyone he sees? These are all things we said, by the way.
Yeah.
The stupid predator dogs, which do nothing but except eat bullets, and one of them becomes tamed after being shot and helps the good guys and saves the day by tossing a grenade out of his mouth near the end. The stupid, cringy jokes, like the guy with Tourette's starts shouting sexual inappropriate remarks at the female scientist. It's so bad. The acting, dialogue, script, story, plot, it's all just laughable. It's all over the place, makes no sense, and the ending is the worst. I'm in shock. This is an insult to filmmaking and to mankind. Once again, I agree with most of those points, but Jesus, man, there's a lot worse movies out there.
I mean, we were just talking about Fant Four Stick earlier.
Yeah, way worse.
Want to know a fun fact? Fant Four Stick did make more money than this film.
Oh, interesting.
But way less than you might think. So, the domestic gross for this film was $51 million. Mm-hmm. The domestic gross for Fant Four Stick, $56 million. Like, they're honestly very similar films in terms of how much money they.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worldwide for Predator was 160. Worldwide for Fant Four Stick, 167.
Interesting.
Fant Four Stick came out 3 years before this film, and I only bring this up because, like, if you want to see a worse movie, go watch Fant Four Stick.
Well, that one we saw that together, and we came out of that theater like depressed. I didn't come out of this one depressed. I was more just like, oh my God, what? Why? Like, ugh. Yeah. Oh no. But like it was a dark day after Fant Four Stick.
Well, it was also like late, and we had to then record a podcast. We were all upset.
We did record that review right after seeing it, which I know is a fan favorite from our old days, because it is just such a like, What's even the fucking point, man?
Yeah, dig our Fantastic review out of the archive on our Patreon.
If you're one of our patrons,
Three broken men.
Oh, jeez. I mean, that as a Fantastic Four fan, that was the case for a long time. Okay. Here we go. How about this? This comes to us from Hellmant. I don't know. And the review is titled "Just a Hell of a Lot of Fun, like the '80s action flicks I grew up on." The fourth installment in the Predator movie franchise, which began in 1987, the sixth counting two Alien vs. Predator movies. This one was directed by Shane Black, who co-starred in the original, and it was co-written by Black and Fred Decker. Yes, people have made a joke that they're a writing team named Black and Decker. He calls it anyway. He talks about this. It's received mostly negative reviews from critics, but is expected to do well at the box office, though. I loved it. It's ridiculously violent and full of witty dialogue and lovable characters like only Shane Black can deliver. The story also revolves around the Predators knowing humans are going extinct soon due to climate change, and they want to collect someone with Asperger's because they know people on the spectrum are the next step in evolution. So I really like that about the film as well. But mostly, it's just a hell of a lot of fun, like the 80s action flicks I grew up on. Every review reads like this. You'd be like, John, you pulled a not very interesting review. This is maybe the most in-depth review. There's so many 10-star reviews that are just like, badass, super cool, Shane Black rules, you know?
Mm-hmm.
People who were never not going to like this movie.
Yeah, and look, I had a conversation with a coworker when I told them I was watching this film, and their reaction was like, oh yeah, I dug that movie.
Yeah.
No offense to my coworker, but like, their surface level read on like a fun action movie they probably had on in the background, notwithstanding, like, yeah, okay, I can see that from this film, totally. Our job is to like talk about it, so I have to think about it a little bit more.
It mostly delivers the surface level, visceral experience you might want out of this if you're not thinking about it too hard. But
as opposed to like a crafted action experience like your John Wicks or something where that's the point of the film, or even I think The Nice Guys is a great example.
Yeah, I was gonna say even other Shane Black movies.
Yeah. That is a more like crafted, honed experience when it comes to a blend of comedy and action, and this movie feels a little bit more slapdash.
Well, that's the thing is like with Shane Black, while he mixes comedy and action, I don't think of him as a special effects filmmaker. Iron Man aside, that's more, and even he talked about that was more Marvel does the special effects, I bring the Shane Black stuff to the moments in between, you know.
Well, and even Iron Man 3, one thing you can say about that film, of the Iron Man films, it is easily the most stripped down of them.
I mean, his whole pitch there is let's take the armor away.
Yeah,
what is Tony Stark super genius? And the answer is MacGyver. But then we get the whole barrel of monkeys sequence and the house party protocol, and that's all fun. Good. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is there's fun injected into the action sequence. That's one of my problems with this is none of the action sequences are very rip roaring in this thing. If you're gonna lean that hard into them, it's just a weird movie, and it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that this thing didn't work. Yeah. Anyway, next week we're going to talk about a movie I know we both like a lot. Which is when we try to make this franchise work again by not acting like it's the next step in a franchise, basically. And that's a little movie called Prey.
Oh, I mean, look, hands already tilted on this one. Prey rules.
Prey rules. Number one, I've said this before. I can't believe it took this long for somebody to figure out that a Predator continuation should be called Prey. That's obvious. It was right there. But it's this movie is the first one that I feel there are Shane Black quotes about this movie, and there were on Predators. There's always this like we're trying to get back to what worked about the original movie. I feel like this is the first one that actually does that.
Yeah.
It really returns to and once again it's by stripping it down, way down. And it's a great movie. Obviously, it worked well enough that Dan Trachtenberg is directing another Predator movie right now.
Can't wait.
Very excited, yeah. So we'll talk about that next week. As always, I'll leave you with the tagline for that, which is very simple. It's just, the hunt is on.
Hell yeah.
Great poster, too. I love the poster for Prey, which we'll talk about next week. But until then, if you want more from us at both the IP Squad and the Punch Up Entertainment Network, head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/punchup. That's punchup ENT. Check that out. You can get cool exclusive bonus episodes of this show, including what we call IP Squad related cases. There's only 2 for this season because we had trouble finding a third movie that was worth discussing. So, hey, enjoy what we did.
There are plenty of movies out there where our discussion would have been, and it's bad.
Yeah. And we should have maybe we should have done a few of them together, but I don't want to watch all of them anyway. But yeah. So anyway, we talked about some stuff, but yeah, we do bonus things that are tangentially related to whatever we're talking about on the main feed. So check that out. You also get early and exclusive bonus episodes from other shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network. Where else can people check out Punch Up Entertainment, Gurioni?
Over on YouTube, of course, John, at youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. There you can find all of our shows for premium second screen experience, as well as YouTube exclusive shows like the visual version of May the Panel Be With You, where you can read the Star Wars comics we're talking about along with us, or Punch Up Plays, where we talked about Mass Effect actually quite a bit in this episode.
That's right.
And you can see Elliot Lewis and I playing through the Mass Effect franchise. I think by the time this episode releases, we'll be pretty close to being done with the first game and start in on that dark middle chapter.
Which is where you get Yvonne Strahovski for the first time.
It's true, yeah.
Very cool. All right, we'll check that out. But I think until next time, the case file is closed.